Assalamualaikum dan salam sejahtera. Welcome to the second part of polymers. Now I will continue about the classification of polymer. In this classification of polymer, I will explain about first the structure of polymer, where the structure of polymer can be divided based on three types. The first one, the polymeric structure. The second one, chemical structure. And the third one about the arrangement of monomers. Next, I will talk about the classification of polymer, where polymer can be classified into three types. The first one, molecular forces. The second one, based on the thermal behavior. And then the third one, polymer can be classified based on the organic and inorganic polymer. Before I talk further about these two subtopics, I will explain about how we can obtain the polymers, the source of polymers. The first one, polymers can be found in the natural way, where the polymer occurs in natural and exists in natural sources like plants and animals. For example, protein, where it can be found in human and animals like. And then the second one, from the cellulose and starch, which are found in plants. And then the third one in rubber, where we can harvest the latex of a tropical plants. The second source of polymers is the semi-synthetic. Polymers are obtained making modification in natural polymers artificially in a lab. These polymers formed by chemical reaction, where it in a controlled environment and are of commercial importance. For example, vulcanized rubber, where the sulfur is used in cross-bonding the polymers chains which found in the natural rubber. And then the second example is the cellulose acetate, the rayons. The third source of polymer is come from the synthetic polymer, where these polymers produced by the human which can artificially create and synthesize in a lab. These are commercially produced by industry for human necessity. The example of synthetic polymer such as polyethylene. The second one, the nylon fibers, which commonly used in our clothes, fishing nets and lain-lain.
Next, we move to the structure of polymer. First, we look into the polymeric structure. In this part, I will discuss about the different types of structure in polymer. The first type of structure is the linear structure, where in this structure, it resembles the spaghetti of long chains, tangled together but not linked, can slide on one another. Okay, remember spaghetti, remember linear structure. It held together by weaker van der Waals or hydrogen bonding, and it is easy to break with heat and be remolded. And also, polymer with linear structure give higher melting point, densities, and tensile strength. The example of this polymer with a linear structure such as the polyethylene, polystyrene, and polyvinyls. Next, the polymer with the branch structure, where in this structure it resembles the linear polymers with addition of shorter chains hanging from the spaghetti backbone. The polymer with this structure give a lower melting point, densities, and tensile strength compared to linear polymer. The short chain do not bridge from one longer backbone to another. Heat will typically break the bond between branch polymer chain. The example of polymer with this structure such as low density polyethylene LDPE, polypropylene, starch, glycol, and others. The last one of the polymer with the cross-link structure, where this structure resembles ladders. The chains link from one backbone to another. This structure tied together via covalent bond. This much stronger bond makes most cross-link polymer thermosetting. Cross-link polymer do not melt at high temperature. They tend to become a soft material that eventually burn. The example of polymer with this structure such as vulcanized natural rubber. Next, we move to the classification of copolymer based on the chemical structure. This classification of polymer can be divided into two types, which is the first one is the homopolymer. This polymer occurs or produced when a single type of monomer undergoes polymerization to form a micromolecules. Let's say in this diagram, the monomer of this polymer is A, and then when a lot of A go through the polymerization, it will form the polymer that contain the polymer chains that contain only A monomers. The polymer with this type of structure includes nylon 6, nylon 11, polyethylene, polypropylene, PVC, and so on. The second types of polymer which involve the chemical structure is copolymer, where this polymer built up of two types of monomers joining to make a polymer. It can be further classified based on the arrangement of monomers. For example, random copolymer, block copolymer, alternating copolymer, gradient copolymer, graph copolymer, periodic copolymer, and a periodic copolymer. The polymer that have this structure includes polyethylene vinyl acetate and nitrile rubber. We look into the arrangement of monomer. There are several types of arrangement of monomers that can form the polymers. The first one is the alternating copolymers. It means that the two different of monomers produce the chains of polymer when it alternate each other. For example, A, B, A, B, A, B. The next one is the random copolymer, where two types of polymer just randomly attach to form the copolymers. The third one is block copolymers. Block copolymers with two blocks, it means that a block of two types of monomers attach each other to form the copolymers, which means we have A blocks and B blocks, and then these two blocks of polymers will link each other to form the copolymers with two blocks. While for the block copolymers with three blocks, it means that there are three blocks of monomers, link each other to form the long chain of copolymers. The third one is the graph copolymers, where in these copolymers, two types of polymers link each other to form the chain or the branch of the copolymers. For example, B will attach inversely to form the branch of this copolymer. Next, we move to the classification of polymers based on the molecular forces. The polymers are classified into the following groups on the basis of magnitude of intermolecular forces. For example, van der Waals forces, hydrogen bonding, and dipole-dipole interaction that present in the structure. This includes elastomers, fibers, liquid resins, and plastic. First, we look into the elastomers. These polymers is rubber-like solid with elastic properties. The polymer chains are random coiled structure. Weak intermolecular forces are present, so are highly amorphous polymers. This permit the polymer to be stretched. A few cross-links are introduced between the chain, which help to tetract to its original position. The polymer with this structure includes rubber, Buna S and Buna N, neoprene, and so on. Next, we move to the fibers. These polymers is a linear polymers whose length is at least 100 times its diameter. Strong, tough, and strong forces of interaction present, such as hydrogen bonding. Thread-forming solid which possess high tensile strength. The polymer that have this structure includes nylon 6, polyester, and so on. Next, we move to the liquid resin. This polymer is used as adhesive coating compound sealants, for example, in a liquid form. The polymer with this structure includes epoxy adhesive and polysulfide sealants. The last one is the plastics, where the polymer is shaped into hard and tough utility articles by application of heat and pressure. The intermolecular forces between polymeric chains are intermediate between elastomers and fibers, so they are partially crystalline. There are two types of plastic, includes thermoplastic and thermosetting plastic. These are the examples of each types of polymer based on the molecular forces. Next, we move to the classification of polymer based on the thermal behavior. Based on the thermal behavior, polymer can be classified into two, includes thermoplastics and thermosetting plastic. Thermoplastics is a linear polymer that take on the new shapes by the application of heat and pressure, while thermosetting plastic is the polymer with the cross-link that cannot be made to flow or melt irreversibly. These are the differences between thermoplastic and thermosetting plastics. If you can see from the structure of thermoplastic and thermosetting plastic, you can see that in the thermoplastic has the tangled polymer chain, and then it give no cross link between chains and have the weak forces of attraction between chains, and it softens when heated. While for the thermosetting plastic, its structure gives the polymer chain that held together by strong covalent cross-link bonding that does not break on heat. And this polymer remains hard when heated. Next, we move to the classification of polymer based on the organic and inorganic polymers. First, we look into the organic polymer. Organic polymer is a polymer that made up of carbon backbone. This polymer is environmentally friendly as these are biodegradable. The example of organic polymer includes polysaccharides, proteins, polynucleotides, polyester, and so on. For the inorganic polymers, this polymers is a polymer material that have no carbon atoms in the backbones but includes silicon-silicon linkage, silicon oxide linkage, nitrogen-phosphorus halide linkage, phosphorus-oxygen linkage, and boron-oxygen linkage. The example of inorganic polymers includes polysilanes, polysiloxylanes, polyphosphates, and polyboron oxides. That's all for the classification of polymers. Now, we move to the commercial uses of polymers. There are different types of polymers that been used widely in the industries. For examples, polypropylene. This polymer been used in the production of textile, packaging, stationery, plastics, aircraft, and ropes. Next, polystyrene. This polystyrene has been used in the production of bottles, toys, TV cabinets, trays, disposal glasses, and plates such as insulator. Next is the polyvinyl chloride (PVC). This polymer has been used in the production of sewage pipes, insulator in electric cables, doors, windows, vinyl floorings, and the urea formaldehyde resin. These polymers been used in the production of adhesive, molds, laminated sheets, unbreakable containers. For rubbers, these polymers been used in the making of tires, elastic materials, and so on. Next, the glycol. These polymers is used in the production of paints, coatings, and lacquer. And then the next one is baketyl. For the baketyl being used in the production of electrical switches, kitchen products, toys, jewelry, firearms, and insulators. When you buy some plastics product, do you notice about this symbol? a triangle with a numbers. Do you know what do the numbers on the plastics means? The numbers is a resin identification code that used to help the recycled plants sort materials. The recyclable plastics are labeled with the numbers 1 until 7 to tell workers what kind of plastic it is and how it should be processed. So, brush up on your resin codes in next slide and adjust your recycle habits accordingly. So this is the resin identification of plastics. If you identify the symbols with number 1, it means that these symbols indicate the PET, polyethylene terephthalate. So this polymers is being used in the beverage bottles, biscuit trays, salad dressing containers, and polyester fibers. Of course, these polymers can be recyclable. And then, please notice that make sure to use this type of polymers used once with caution because this type of plastic releases endocrine disruptor like acetaldehyde over time as well as toxic antimony. For the symbols with number 2s, it means that these symbols indicate the HDPE, high density polyethylene plastics. This type of plastic has been used widely in the making of milk jugs, shopping bags, juice bottles, food storage containers, bottle caps, and shampoo bottles. And these plastics also can be recycled. This plastic is safety untested. This plastic is easy to recycle and being used to make plastic lumbers. For the resin identification with number 3s, it indicates the PVC, polyvinyl chloride. This type of plastic has been widely used to produce plastic wrap, toys, spray bottles, shower curtains, garden hose, water pipes, siding insulation, adhesive panels, signs, clothing, leather, and furniture. This type of plastic cannot be recyclable. Therefore, make sure you avoid to use this type of products. This plastic is the most toxic plastics, leaches phthalates and dioxins linked to the reproductive problems, diabetic, organic toxicity, and abnormal cell growth. For the resin identification code with number 4, it indicates LDPE, low density polyethylene. This type of plastic being used in the production of plastic wrap, shopping bags, baby bottles, reusable plastics, snap-on lids, six-pack rings, laminated, and disc drive. This type of plastic is not usually been recyclable. However, this plastic is safe to use because it relative chemical non-reactive but degrades very slow, yet burdens the environment for centuries. For the resin identification with number 5, it indicates the polypropylene PP. This plastic being used in the production of baby bottles, dairy and yogurt containers, diapers, reusable plastics, textile, carpet, and molded shapes. This type of plastic can be recyclable. And then this plastic is safety untested. However, avoid if possible. But this plastic is better than plastic number 3, 6, and 7. Next, the resin identification code with number 6. This code indicates the polystyrene PS. This plastic has been used to produce the egg containers, insulation, plastic cutlery, foam drink cups, styrofoam packaging, baking peanuts, and insulation. This plastic cannot be recyclable, so make sure to avoid to use this type of plastics because this type of plastic leaches toxic HBCD, and styrene, a neurotoxin and suspected carcinogen over entire lifespan of plastics. Last but not least, resin identification code with number 7. This type of plastic refer to the bisphenol A and others, all other plastics. This type of plastic being used in the production of water bottles, food packaging, CDs, DVDs, sport equipment, automotive, electronics, and appliance components. This type of plastic cannot be recyclable. Therefore, you need to avoid to use this plastic. And catch-all category, it is hard to know which items have BPA. Bisphenol A mimics estrogen and is linked to the development damage. Have you heard about the phrase, you are what you eat? So, let's say you dump plastics into the ocean. Do you know that one bottle takes 100 years to degrade into the microplastics, and then this microplastic will be eaten by fish. So, and then will be eaten by fish. So make sure will be eaten by fish. Just assume that you eat that fish that eating the microplastic. So which means you eat the plastics. To make sure to avoid this type of situation, please reduce the use of plastics. How to reduce the plastic? First, bring your own bottles. The second one, bring your own bags. And then, please start to reuse and recycle all the products that can be recyclable. Next is no facial scrubbers, and make sure you clean up your beach several times. So this is the decomposition rates of common marine debris item. So if you can see that most of the plastic products takes a longer time to decompose. So make sure if you want to buy or use plastic products, think about our environment. Please be responsible to our environment. I think that's all from me. Thank you very much and Assalamualaikum.